Okay, abusia former Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo&Ěxp0sė enimguase bia enimguase na waje no oba be make a hypocritical statements be about a removal of a former Chief Justice Torkornoo. Abusia na nsɛm a ɔde bae no ama Ghanaian based journalists be ababonten ababe exposing the big time the criminalities with NPP Akufo-Addo and a removal of a CJ Torkornoo chese boni ana one sa nkofo we edi no journalist na kire say sa maame no ofa process bi so edi Charlotte osei edi ama sa process na ofa so na legal enti no onka na no ntum oni good records bia one hwan a chese oba na waba be comment on a removal of Torkornoo. Because maame na ankasa Torkornoo na ankasa no one maame no ewo bond bia bond na one no no eno nti na amana di saa ne emotional we bi amana ba be di saa nkomo ne say removal na ye remove suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo no enam ne kwan so illegal. Abusia Kevin Taylor expose Sophia Akuffo and then the criminalities with Akufo-Addo and suspended Chief Justice Torkornoo. Momi yanko na yanko tie ne nsema okan no de o chese maame no any good records bia. Momi yanko on subscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afofron so ensa into me enka bi aha Ghana politics avenue so medamase.
Chief Justice, she has dumped that somewhere and she's going on this very slippery route. It is all about how she feels, her feelings, how she knows somebody, but she has forgotten to analyze the issues based on facts. Since Madam Sophia Akuffo started speaking on Torkornoo's dismissal and sack from the judiciary, she has not stated any facts. Emma Nasam looking unique and different from the ordinary Ghanaian on the streets. Sometimes when she speaks and you listen, you ask yourself, say, does she even have any law background? Has she learned the law? Does she understand that before you speak against the Constitution, before you disagree with the laws or due process, you need to have a counterfactual argument to prove, say, your case you are making, that is the reason why you do not agree to a specific decision that has been taken. And recently, since Madam Torkornoo was sacked, I have seen that this woman has dropped from where she used to be, how we used to see her, the respect people like us used to give her, because at a point, she sat on TV and told some people that they have pin brain. But some of her utterances, her submissions on the sack of Torkornoo, it is looking more like she is basically putting herself in the pin brain family. With all due respect, I respect this woman a lot. Now, these are some of the things she said about the Madam Torkornoo issue, sacking her as the Chief Justice and also as a judge in Ghana. These are some of her statements. Or say, they or the allegations contained in petition lack the gravity that will lead to a grave outcome, such as the removal of the head of an institution of justice. Now, if you say the allegations contained in the petition, now, Madam Torkornoo was given every room to defend herself. In fact, the president, when he received the petition, he actually gave Madam Torkornoo 10 days. Even though now Madam Torkornoo asked for just 7 days. Madam Torkornoo was given the room to look at the petition, the allegations in the petition. And you as a judge, when people enter your courtroom, there is a reason why you give them the room to go for a lawyer, to express themselves, defend themselves with the facts, to prove their innocence. The process gave Torkornoo all the room to prove her innocence. That is why Torkornoo went for a lawyer. In fact, she went for 2 MPP lawyers. That is why the president gave Torkornoo enough time to study the allegations in the petition. So you cannot just say that the petition, what are the allegations that were contained in the petition, they lack gravity. On what basis are you able to prove that they lack gravity? Were you, or do you have any counter facts to prove that the allegations that were contained in the petition lacked gravity? It is upon Torkornoo and her lawyers to prove to the committee that the allegations lacked it, unless you have other ideas, unless you don't want to respect due process, unless you are being mischievous as a former Chief Justice who understands how the law works and how people are given the room to defend themselves. And when I heard her speak like this, I felt so bad. I felt like the woman that I respect is forcing herself to be part of the pin brain people that she has been referring to. Because if I make such statement, I have to make it. You can sit anywhere else and say, this guy, he does not have the know-how. He does not have the expertise. He does not have any knowledge about law. He has not been a lawyer before. He's not a judge. He has never sat in any high-profile case. So we can give it to him. But you, when you make such vague a statement without proving that the allegations in the petition, the gravity lacked, what you say, it lacked that gravity, it means you are speaking out of emotions. You are making a moral argument. You are not making a factual argument. And moral argument can be made by anyone. But factual argument, it's always made by people who are intelligent enough to separate Gary from rice. So, but you as a person, I respect you, especially with the baggage you carry as an ex-Chief Justice and a legal professional, somebody who knows the law. Now, Osaka Sembi. Momianko tie in Sembia Akuffo&Ěxp0sě Torkornoo asem no ho. Biwia na machiro why this woman is forcing herself to be grouped or to be added to the pin brain people she has been referring to.
I'm very sad about it. It has really saddened me. And maybe in a way, I feel very distressed by it. Yes.
Mm. In terms of the conclusion that was reached, where the matter has journeyed from, is the sadness as a result of the conclusion, or you have questions about the procedure that took place before that?
The sadness is about the whole process. My sadness is because as far as I'm concerned, it was a very unnecessary. We have been taken through a very unnecessary situation, and which, as far as I'm concerned, and that is my honest and candid view, this has so weakened the institution of the judiciary. It's not so much the individual who occupies their position. It is the institution. That is what I'm concerned about.
Mm. I mean, what informs the conclusion that it's an unnecessary process? I mean, we have heard even government spokesperson make the point that a petition was sent, a committee in line with the constitution was set up, they've looked into the matter and they've come to a conclusion. Which aspect of it, what specifically makes that necessary?
I think that, you see, there has always been something wrong with Article 146. And particularly with the procedure that it sets out, and especially as it regards the position of the Chief Justice. In the Addo case, I took the opportunity to reflect on that weakness that I noticed. And are these and these are not so, to me, they lack the gravity. They lack the gravity that would lead to a grave outcome, such as the removal of the head of an institution of justice. I've deliberately phrased myself that way. It trivializes the position, and I wonder what this is going to lead to further on along the line, because every judge is fair game and every chief justice is also fair game.
I mean, is that to suggest that you suspect there could be a ripple effect in that?
Oh, definitely.
Any matter?
It's not suspect. I foresee, not tomorrow, maybe not next year, maybe not in 5 years' time, but along the line, yes, unless those provisions are dealt with effectively in a revised constitution.
Maybe a more direct question. I have seen the letter that was written by the secretary to the president to the former chief justice,
and that's the other thing. A warrant, a person holding a presidential warrant, that's what the position is. You become chief justice because you have received a presidential warrant. You can receive all kinds of letters that you are hereby appointed, but if you don't have that warrant, does that make you chief justice? Yeah. Okay. So if you're removing the person from the position, is it a subordinate who signs the letter? Is that the way it's supposed to be done? That's just by the way. Food for thought.
Yeah, but I've seen a warrant as well signed by His Excellency the President.
So why are they showing us that one? I've been receiving all kinds of messages, and every one of them is only bringing out that letter. And in any case, is it polite? Is it proper that it should be a subordinate who writes a letter of removal to a chief justice? Really?
So, it's more of a moral argument than a factual one, not based on any fact. In some Kenya, I'll say, Yabusana say, do you have a problem with the procedure? Meaning the due process. She didn't really want to answer. Also, the whole thing has been an unnecessary situation. Later, also, the provisions, she has some problem with it. But as a former chief justice, she could not state one thing that she has a problem with. She vaguely threw it out there. Because you, as Madam Sophia Akuffo, I cannot just come and say, I have a question with you being appointed by Akuffo as the chief justice. I need to prove beyond that for people to understand that I'm making a valid argument. It could be that I don't like you because of your name. It could be that because you have Akuffo in your name, it's making me think that you are a relative to Akuffo. But I cannot just come and say, Madam Sophia, I don't know why they made you the chief justice. I need to prove. So if you, as a former chief justice, you have an issue with even the procedure or the due process that was put together for Torkornoo to go through, you should have at least stated one infraction, something that is against that process that you are calling unnecessary situation, for people like us to understand where you are coming from. Because now you are speaking like anybody on the streets. In fact, if somebody comes and hears you speak on TV and does not know who you are or is not a Ghanaian, they will not even have an idea that you have any legal background. They will think that somebody just went to bring their mother to come and sit on TV to speak. Because you are not making any argument from the statement you're making to prove that you have, with all due respect, the experience and with all due respect, the intelligence to make a case than the ordinary person walking on the street. Because just saying that the whole procedure or process was an unnecessary situation does not justify that the process was supposed to be done. If you want to prove to us that you are better, you have the experience, and that what you are making, the statements you are making, are not basically based on moral and basically based on speculation. You are supposed to go further than what than the argument Chairman Wontumi will make, because the argument you are making is like Chairman Wontumi sitting on any radio stations to speak on the Torkornoo matter. With all due respect to you, madam. With all due respect, or see, there's always been a problem with Article 146. Or see, that article now, John Mahama, any president to be able to say Akuffo ejina so, and making sure the due process, has been dealt, has happened, Or see, she has always had a problem with the Article 146. We never knew she had a problem. She was Chief Justice for over 8 years or 8 years. She was just Chief Justice, I don't know the number of years, but it wasn't 8 years. She never spoke on Article 146, even when she was Chief Justice. When she was Chief Justice, she also received the same petition, but she never had an issue with Article 146 until today. Her party, her brother Akuffo&Ěxp0sě, and her friend Torkornoo also had to go through the same process. So suddenly, she has always had a problem with the same Article 146 that she applied when she was Chief Justice. Into one baby Ofriba, she is picking and choosing. This is a woman I respect a lot. Dear, why you are caught in me? But at least she needs to prove beyond the say you are a former Chief Justice, you are a luminary, you are an intelligent person when it comes to the law. You cannot speak vaguely, because people like us are waiting for people like you with experience in the law to make a point that we can say yes, she based her argument on this fact. But you are basically speaking like a normal housewife who is relaxed at home and just telling us about what happened in the market. You are not basically distinguishing yourself from normal people on the street and a former Chief Justice and a judge of the Supreme Court. Now, you being a Chief Justice for 3 years, we handing over the judiciary to you for 3 years, it wasn't an easy thing. Now, how can you just sit on TV and make due process, constitution, yejina so take a decision, how can you just sit on TV to make it look like, say, the course illegal? Now, she went on to say this. She is saying, we should revise the constitution. The constitution reform team or revised committee, it is there. You have all the right to go to that committee and present, because you could being a former Chief Justice, I think they will listen to you than me. So if you have a problem with 146, if you have a problem with some things in the constitution, you cannot sit at home and put on makeup and make it look like it's not something that concerns you. You have every right to put those concerns together to give to the Constitutional Review Committee for them to look at it, because you are a former Chief Justice. You don't put on scarf, shine your face, wear glasses, and polish your grammar like we can't speak English. You can equally write your own piece and take it to where? Take it to the Constitutional Review Committee. You cannot just sit there and speak like a laywoman, with all due respect to you. You cannot bring down the level you have been so low that when you speak, we don't see any signs of somebody who has legal intelligence, with all due respect to you, madam. So, sometimes when we listen to you, after listening to you today, I was shocked, because your argument was all pushing you into the bracket of the pin-brain people. Because the pin-brain people, when they make arguments, they don't have any facts to base their arguments on. And that is what you have done today. You are forcing yourself to fall into the bracket of the pin-brain people. You have always been telling us that they are not smart enough to make a case, to be coherent, and to make intelligent submissions on national issues. You see, so a judge just sent me this. Former Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo&Єxp0sě's comment on the removal of former CJ Torkornoo is highly casuistic. The judges even have a problem with your submission on this matter, especially when you are a member of the Council of State that basically also received the petition and gave it a green light. So you are becoming a sycophant, with all due respect, madam. Now, let us know who Sophia Akuffo is. Is she a sycophant? Is she somebody we can basically sit back and say, you are a hypocrite. You are not being realistic and honest with Ghanaians. You are playing with the emotional part of the issue instead of you being factual and basing your arguments on evidence and facts. What she is trying to do and what we saw is that she's not being factual. She's being emotional. She's trying to make a moral argument instead of a factual argument. And anybody on the streets of Ghana, including Chema Wuntumi and Abronye, can make moral argument, emotional argument, and not anybody can make factual arguments. And you, as a former Chief Justice, when you get the opportunity to speak, you need to force us to understand that you are smarter than Chema Wuntumi. You are smarter than Abronye. You have been in that position before. You know the law. You are above majority of us. But when you make these baseless, fake, these weak arguments, it makes it difficult for us to see you the way we see you now. That's why I'm saying that I don't want to group you in that bracket of pin-brain old women, because pin-brain people are not able to base their arguments on facts. Now, let's go into calculation a little bit. When we go back into history, this woman called Madam Sophia Akuffo, she was the Chief Justice for 3 years. Now, this is something that we need to go back and analyze. When Charlotte say, people petitioned the president to say, Yenyi Charlotte say, Madam Sophia Akuffo had been appointed about 6 months. And when Madam Sophia Akuffo was appointed as the Chief Justice, within that 6 months, Grandpa answer nobody bear 6 months, 8 months, no, she initiated the sacking of Charlotte say, and she initiated it and based everything on Article 146 that she is trying to tell us she has always had a problem with. The same Article 1469 that she's always had a problem with. It has been the same Article 419, or it was the same Article 419, or it is the same Article 419 she based on to make sure Charlotte Osei and her 2 deputies were sacked from the Electoral Commission. We are trying to let people understand, say, you're disrespecting penny for. But penny for ni bi we need to correct them before they die. Because on say, maybe I do point to be now when you now refuse home, now say correct wa. What they say at Toronto and say your money to be called womb. And that is what we are trying to prevent. Now, avoid contempt against committee probing EC officials. CJ warns, when Charlotte say asem de buy, Madam Sophia Akuffo extra letter the Ghana for say, Mema obian kasem no ho asem kura o media so. Say unim na kwatena TV so na wo discuss it. Eya petition na ye de abre no, ye de abre president ye de abre no na. You are what court mraso, contempt of court at you. She basically wrote a statement and put it out. That is autocracy. Oka obia kasabwa shed yem. This is Sophia Akuffo. They me born the video channel. She was the Chief Justice then. Time a petition no Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo gave the petition to her. Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo didn't give the petition to Charlotte Osei to study and her deputies. Like the way John Mahama gave the petition to Torkornoo to study for 10 days. Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo or received a petition against Charlotte Osei and her deputies. She did not give Charlotte Osei the room to even look at what is in the petition. No. He quickly gave the petition to Sophia Akuffo as the Chief Justice for the process to start working. In the time Ekodi ni hono and a release statement, I'm talking about Sophia Akuffo. Yeah. Avoid contempt against committee probing EC officials. Time petition kodu committee enim na omu probi petition no and at CJ Emma Ghana for nyina warning. Wa we ye bema ana oba a obebusa question. Obe raise issue, obe question system no, you what contempt at show. You bet you what. This is the same woman who today is telling us, say, ya boni, emono, enche obe wunti, yentie ono nyansa, with all due respect. Now, when you read the story, this is what it says. Let me enlarge it. The facts are there. This is city. Date so December 19, 2017. Reading time 4 minutes read. What the 4 minutes a kind story in a way. Inti fact ni nyina the amount no. Yen read the story no. The Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo has formally constituted a committee to investigate the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Charlotte Osei, and her 2 deputies over corruption allegations leveled against them, with a caution to the general public to desist from making demeaning comments about their work. Miami way at the committee. Akuffo had second petition no, and the man as a Chief Justice then, and on the Coma committee, a T committee, and on satchel letter ma Ghana for so Bianca Nuntum. Nobody in Ghana. This was the warning from Madame Sophia Akuffo now to work as ano. With all due respect to her. Me person who the kind of people, the pin brain people, no, and I make sure no. These are people we have to be careful about. Today, she's part of the Council of State.
Okay, I was winning and smart a course so. Kevin Taylor and I say I expose Sophia Akuffo ne criminalities with Akuffo adone Torkornoo enye asem keto akra beda ma sesa moje penekoko tisa and some way edema aha Ghana politics avenue so beda ma se